Hi there, my name is Darryl Kwa. Welcome to Business. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is attributing the Eurobond oversubscription to high investor confidence in the economy. Government finally managed to raise the projected $3 billion in London on Tuesday at the end of its Eurobond roadshow. This is after it received almost $15 billion in bids from investors. This represents 5 times more than the targeted amount. Economist Professor Godfrey Bopin says the success of the Eurobond sale could be linked to Ghana's performance in the latest Moody's rating.
It looks to me that the Minister of Finance and his team, they fully understand the workings of the international capital market, because the last one that they went, the one before this one, we feared the rate was going to be high, but they pulled through in a manner that was fairly okay. Of course, somebody will say that it's dollar denominated and anything above 6% is still very high, given what other countries are doing on the market in terms of the rate at which they are getting. Yes, but don't forget that this is an African country, and it's an election year, and all that risk could have been priced into it, for which reason investors would have held out for higher yield as a way of seeking greater protection from perceived default. But we should also be mindful of the fact that the Moody's rating, which also affirmed the confidence in the economy in terms of the progress government has made. But of course, it also does recognize some challenges, shortfall in government revenue envelope, revenue target, and all of that. They are quite critical. So even though we have done this, there's still a long way to go. But for Bank of Ghana, it's also good news to some extent. So close to roughly $3 billion will be hitting their account, and that should be providing a greater cushion for the stability of the cedi. So we've seen the cedi the strengthening against the dollar, and which is unusual in an election year, the first quarter of the year, because when you look at the first 20 transaction days of 2019 and you compare that to 2020, you can see that this is completely opposite of what we have seen in the last couple of years.
Now, property acquisition in Ghana has often been fraught with litigation arising from a lack of transparency in transactions. But if you're looking forward to buying a property soon, there is some hope now. The first ever escrow company, a third-party institution, has been launched to hold trust of financial proceeds during such transactions. How does it work? Sheila Tamaklu has the details.
With a mountain housing deficit estimated to be about 2 million housing units, the acquisition of land and property continues to remain a challenge, often marred by litigations and disputes over ownership. Elsewhere, with the use of an escrow, thus a third-party service, buyers get to inspect the goods or service before accepting them, protecting the buyer, likewise the sellers. Ghana can now boast of the first ever escrow firm, the Pitson Escrow and Land Title Services. Speaking to Joy Business at the launch, the Chief Escrow Officer of the company, Peter Chikata, explained the challenge of transparency with property acquisition will be mitigated with rigorous checks on both buyers and sellers.
With regards to the seller, we scrutinize the documentation. We walk it through a search process. The search process goes through 4 different divisions of the Lands Commission to assure the buyer that the land is litigation-free and the person claiming to be the owner of that property is the real true owner.
Technical Director for Lands at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources added that the intervention was timely for the real estate sector.
We are aware of how investments in property, real estate, go bad because people put in their money only to realize that the land is not even for that person after all, and then he will either abscond or whatever. What we are doing now is that we are facilitating that amount of money being lodged in a safe place, so that at the end of it all, when title has changed hands and the property has moved from Mr. A to Mr. B, who is the buyer, then A will have his money and B will have his land when both parties are satisfied.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklu reporting.
And we'll have more business news coming up at the top of the hour. Sports is up next on JoyNews Today.